soothing, calming, relaxing, chilled out.
Metallica!
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I guess echoing Eric's sentiments. How's your good lady?
Yeah, she's all right, thank you.
Very good.
We do have an excuse to postpone the show, but actually the excuse that we would have was actually that we had a technical issue. So it's fine. She's all right, thank you. She's walking around. It is indeed Dollars Doubles. She's a bit bruised, but
Right.
but okay, thank you.
Very good, very good. Well, all thoughts with her. This is that album, and we nearly never made it because we did have a little technical issue. But we managed to sort it. Full disclosure, I just clicked a little mute button just off screen, just right at the bottom of the screen. I just clicked a little mute button. I couldn't hear anything.
You didn't need to say that, Eric.
I like sharing. I like sharing with our community. So I came on and I can't hear you, mate. I can't hear you. Anyway, we've got time to make up because this is a big one. This is that album. Each week, Adam and I take an album and we listen to it, we dissect it, and we get a bit more under the skin than we usually do when we're just listening to music. Yeah, absolutely. Two different shows. So this is our 54th show, something like that.
54th, yeah, I think, isn't it?
54th. So the way it works is we one of us recommends an album one week, we go away, we listen to it, we come back and we review it. Sometimes it's a hit, sometimes it's a miss, sometimes we both love it, sometimes we're both kind of like, yeah. Last week, Adam had us review what was that called? A cut above? No, not a cut above. A cut above, June Tabor and Martin Simpson, kind of folk album. And I thought, because that was so much in Adam's DNA, I was going to pick something from my DNA. So I'm quite excited about this. I actually don't care what you I don't care what you're going to say. No, I'm only joking. So I said, why don't we go away and do an album that was pivotal in my life? It came out in 1991. It was from Metallica. It was Metallica. This is the greatest album ever recorded. No argument, says Mike Spink. I know he's a big Metallica fan.
You couldn't tell from that comment, though, could you?
What's that?
You couldn't tell that he's a big Metallica fan from that comment.
No, you couldn't. You couldn't. Absolutely. There's lots of devil horns coming in this one. There's no Illuminati here. It is just the rock and roll symbol. That's all. Don't read anything into it. We're not forming the New World Order. Not just quite yet. So commonly known as the Black Album to some people, this is the 5th studio album by Metallica. It came out in 1991. So we've spent a week with it. Actually, nothing's changed for me this week. I played it as many times as I normally would. But the question is, that is as is our wont on this little show, was this Holier Than Thou or an Unforgiven for you?
Okay, so I obviously I knew of Metallica and I knew some of their songs. I obviously didn't know Metallica as well as I thought I knew Metallica, because I was expecting something more akin to Black Sabbath or Motorhead.
Right.
We all love a little bit of Ozzy and Lemmy, don't we?
Yeah. Sharon, I can't find my coat.
And what I got was something that was at times rather Bon Jovi, and I mean that in a really good way, quite gentle, quite tuneful, quite I loved it. Absolutely loved this album. Loved this week of listening to it. But a couple of caveats and comments. I think that the whole is greater than the sum of the parts.
Right.
I think James Hetfield is a good singer. I'm not really convinced by his songwriting. Yep. I think some of his work is a bit hit and miss. I think Kirk Hammett, not a great guitarist. I mean, I know that the solo in the Sandman is voted the 4th best guitar solo of all time. I think it's messy and imprecise. What I would say...
Here speaks the guitar player.
What I would say is that Lars Ulrich, oh my God. Yep. Oh my God. Oh my God. I mean, I have never, ever. So I put on this album, first track. What I was absolutely amazed by was his rhythm in this, where he's playing just fractionally behind the beat.
Yeah.
So it sounds really kind of relaxed and slow, even though it's actually quite fast paced. And I just thought it literally, I pressed play, I just went, wow, that
Wow.
is incredible.
Yeah.
Absolutely incredible. So I did a little bit of research. You're obviously going to talk about where it was big and everything. But this is the 18th best-selling album ever.
Yeah.
So we've reviewed Dark Side of the Moon, Rumours, Led Zeppelin 4,
Yep.
Jagged Little Pill, all of which were ahead of it, and we've reviewed Brothers in Arms, The Wall, Nevermind, Faith, and Morning Glory, all of which are behind it. But it's up there amongst those phenomenal albums in terms of sales. I loved it. Absolutely loved it. Thank you, Eric. We can go now for the weekend.
We can go now, yeah, and just let people go away and play Metallica by Metallica and enjoy yourselves. Or we could do a little bit of news about it. Not news, a bit of information.
Yes. So tell me about it. Give me some factoids.
Here's some factoids, and then you can tell us what was happening in '91, maybe. Maybe, or maybe not, because you've had a busy week. So, yeah, the fifth studio album by Metallica, recorded in 1991, August. It was released on August 12th, 1991 by Elektra. Recording sessions took place at 1-to-1 Studios in LA over an 8-month span that frequently found Metallica at odds with their new producer, Bob Rock. They'd admired some of the work that Bob had done with the likes of Motley Crue, and they thought maybe he can just give us a little angle. It was such a dramatic new angle on the way that they composed and the way that they performed and recorded that it sometimes ended up in pretty incredible arguments. I wouldn't want to argue with James Hetfield. Personally, I wouldn't want to argue with him. I think I could I'll take on Lars and Kirk and all of that. I'm not taking on James in an argument. He's a chap. He's an absolute chap. So they promoted it with a series of tours. They released 5 singles from it: Enter Sandman, The Unforgiven, Nothing Else Matters, Wherever I May Roam, and Sad But True, all of which have been considered to be amongst some of their best work. This was a kind of departure for this band. This was fairly radical. They lost a few fans and they gained an entire planet. They gained an entire planet. Yeah, they almost came to blows. Absolutely. So they were in a kind of, I mean, they were a successful-ish band, but they were in a kind of place where there was Me Too's. They were like in that kind of like thrash, speed metal, heavy. I mean, they were nominated for a Grammy on Justice for All. So they were like,
you could have hit the nail on the head there with that Freudian slip.
Friday, they were nominated for a Grammy. Absolutely. So they were doing okay, and then this happened. This changing the way they recorded, changing the songwriting, changing the way music sounded. Bob Rock wanted the bass to be more of a bass and less of a lead guitar, which caused a bit of a problem with the bass player. We'll talk about that as we move on. It received widespread acclaim. It's been and became the band's best-selling album, debuted at number 1 in 10 countries, spent 40 consecutive weeks at the top of the Billboard 200. It's been in there 16 times platinum, blah, 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 blah. Pretty intense. It covers a lot of stuff that Metallica had never covered before. It covers the death of parents. It covers loneliness and solitude and all of that, showing a kind of different side to them. So this was a bit of a risk. Was it going to pay off? Was it going to be one of those things that just like damaged their career? But no, they made an album that suddenly there was white BMWs with white teeth, preppy accountants driving along the Miami Strip, thinking they were really cool playing Metallica by Metallica. Suddenly, heavy speed thrash metal music was cool.
Yeah.
And it really took off. The band took a simpler approach than what they did on Justice for All, the album before this. They said that radio play was not their intention, but because they had pretty much done the longer format to death of the 10, 12-minute songs, they thought a change was as good as the rest. So we get shorter songs on here. They still like to play things out. The relationship with Bob Rock was horrible. In fact, he said at one point he would never work with Metallica again. The critics, most of them loved it. In Entertainment Weekly, David Brown said, "This is rock's preeminent speed metal cyclone, and Metallica may have invented a new genre, progressive thrash." So this was thrash metal for the masses, and my goodness, did the masses not take it on in absolute droves. At Q Magazine, Mark Cooper said that he found the albums avoided of the typically clumsy metaphors normally seen in metal really refreshing. Metallica managed to rekindle the kind of intensity that fired the likes of Black Sabbath before metal fell in love with its own cliches. Some reviewers had reservations. Some of them said it was no longer in love with the possibilities of its sound. They'd created a bit of a metal cult. One reviewer said, "I found my life getting shorter with the play of every song," and said, "I just can't wait till this is done." It's made its mark. It's won awards. It's won stacks of awards. It's been in lists longer. It's sold lots. It's all about the music. So I'll just shut up.
Yeah, so 1991, the Gulf War started.
Right.
Let's move on to the music.
Yeah, we'll just leave that there. The Gulf War started, and everyone frown. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So this first track is really interesting. Reading some stuff about each of these tracks. So Pat Boone recorded a hilarious upbeat version of this for his In a Metal Mood album. Just saying. Pat Boone recorded this.
Pat Boone, I love it. Yeah, the album opens with this tour de force that is Enter Sandman, a rightful entry into one of the band's all-time and classic heavy metal masterpieces. A great up-tempo start. It's got all of that kind of horror film genre and vibe about it. Bob Rock said, "I insisted on the band playing live in the studio. They'd never done that before. All of their previous records were recorded in sections. And little sections like drum and bass would work together. James Hetfield and Kirk wouldn't be there, and then they'd come in it's solo and do their parts." Bob said, "You're a great live band. Live band vibe is crucial. So let's do that." And that kind of unsettled them a little bit. On Sandman, I asked Jason to play more like a bass player, he said, and less like a guitarist. Put that with a new perspective Lars had on drums, where he was being more rhythmic and less sort of like flashy as a drummer. And we get this absolute killer to start with. This is Enter Sandman.
But apparently the original, so you know about the original lyrics of this?
No.
It was a song about cot death.
Oh, right.
And so it says, when a baby dies in his crib, the line, "Off to Never Neverland," was "disrupt the perfect family and the Sandman kills the baby." Pretty gruesome stuff. So the producer, Bob Rock, convinced him to change it to make it more accessible and meaningful, which he did. And this is the song that is played at every single Metallica concert. Every single one play this.
Absolutely, and rightly so. Here we go. Will do, Mike. Thank you. Oh my word! What a way to open an album. My
Yeah, it is. It is something. One of the things, for me, a lot of it is about the performance and how skilled they are. The timekeeping and the rhythm on this song is just beyond anything else that I've heard.
wow,
Absolutely outstanding.
phenomenal. I went to see them in Glasgow in the last tour and saw this live. It was amazing. I know many people have seen them live. I just want to show this to the camera. Just enough said.
Oh, nice.
Enough said. So we went back
Isn't
to
he the guy
the
from Simple Minds?
What's that?
Isn't he the guy from Simple Minds?
So we went back to the hotel after the concert and we were in the bar and suddenly there was a kind of like, oh my God. And this guy walked in and he went straight up to the bar and I thought, this is what I always do. And all my mates were laughing because I just walked up and said hello and he went, all right, how's it going, mate? He's a double from Newcastle. He's a double from Newcastle and he's mates with James Hetfield and he was on the entire UK tour. He followed them around and he had shaved his beard that night because Hetfield had changed his beard for the Glasgow show. And I love them and I think it's great. I'm a full-time James Hetfield double. So I got my photo with him. So that's the big opener. Everybody knows that, right? Everybody knows that. Then we're into track 2, Sad But True.
So this one, a song about blind faith in religion and the lengths people will go to practice their faiths. The line, I'm inside, open your eyes, means that God only exists in people's heads.
Ooh.
So there you go. Hetfield got the idea from this song from the 1978 Anthony Hopkins film Magic, which is about the ventriloquist who is controlled by his evil puppet.
Ah, I see. Is it you that's pinging or me?
It is. It's me. I apologise for that. I seem to be getting.
That's all right. Bob said they played me the demo. I told them I thought it was the Kashmir of the 90s. The riff was astounding. To my knowledge, they'd never had anything so heavy. Some of the fans were like, what is this? This is quite sort of slow and sort of methodical. It was a different kind of track. But my God, pin your ears back and brace yourself. That gap.
So here's an interesting thing. This was written and performed in standard D tuning for the guitar. However, the song's demo was originally in the key of E. Producer Bob Rock recalled, we were in pre-production, which was uncomfortable because nobody had ever sat with them to go through their songs in such a deliberate way before. And 6 songs into the mastering and the pre-production process, Sad But True came along. Suddenly I realized that every song, including this, was in the key of E.
Yeah.
He brought this to the band's attention, and they said, "Well, E is the lowest note," and he said, "No. Motley Crue's Dr. Feelgood is
He did.
tuned down to D." So they tuned down to D, and he said, and that's when this came alive. Interestingly, this was covered for the Metallica Blacklist by...
Not sure.
Royal Blood.
Royal Blood, and I listened to the Metallica Blacklist the other day. I did, but there's a load of artists do each song. But yeah, Royal Blood.
Sad but true.
It's great, isn't it? Because on loads of these albums, we've done tracks and we've gone, check the gap.
Check the gap.
Here,
It's a fool.
Stops. Hold on, I'm just going to go make a cup of tea. I'll be back in a moment.
What I love about this song, my favourite is that when he goes up and does the guitar part, "I'm your pain," behind his own lyrics. Now, gets in my bones. So I had when I played rugby, I had everyone's got a prep for what they do for rugby, and you know, every time you go out in a rugby match, especially if you're an adult, you're not quite sure. You can't guarantee that it's not going to be in an ambulance, right?
Yeah.
You can't guarantee that, right? You know, 30 men trying to kill each other, all 15 stone plus. And I used to sit and listen to this full album on the way, and then listen to this and another track to prep me, to get me ready.
I'm your life. I'm the one.
People said there was a face.
Yeah, I'm your life, and I no longer care.
The next track, Metallica return a bit to the thrash roots.
They do indeed. So Bob Rock thought that this was a track about him, Holier Than Thou. And, James Hetfield said it was about his irritation with people in the music industry who are quick to point the finger at other people's mistakes. I personally think it probably was about Bob Rock. Hetfield said in a 2001 Playboy interview, "This is one of our sillier songs." Interesting that he would use the phrase "one of our sillier songs," because they don't strike you as a band that does silly things, do they?
We'll do a little Daft song, right? We'll do this one. This is our little Daft song. This is Holier Than Thou. When this takes off, I lose my mind. A little whimsy number.
No more, the crap rolls out your mouth again. Haven't changed your brain, it's so delicate. Little whisper circle around your head. Why don't you worry about yourself instead?
Good point.
Who are you? Where you been? Where you from? Gossip burning on the tip of your tongue. You lie so much you believe yourself. Judge not, let TV judge yourself. Holier than thou.
I think that this is not that I've ever done this. A great song to power walk to. It's more like a song to club seals to, isn't it? Really.
Yes, it is. Therefore, the rugby connection. I tell you, it's a dangerous thing to drive to this. your foot gets heavier and heavier and
Yes.
heavier and heavier. Mummy, there's a scary man behind us.
No, officer. The reason that I was going at 120 is because of Holier Than Thou, sir.
Metallica. Yeah, on you go, sir. Mind your way. Put the Unforgiven on until you get home. I mean, if this isn't running into battle. Honestly, my watch thinks I'm having a heart attack. My watch is like, "Are you okay?
Warning,
Are you all right, Eric?"
warning.
So they dial it down a notch because they've if this was meant for people like me, then they've hipped us up to the point of like fury, but then suddenly everything's different. This is a complete departure from Metallica.
So interesting that we have The Unforgiven, we have The Unforgiven 2,
Yeah.
and we have The Unforgiven 3 on subsequent albums.
Yeah.
Did you know? Of course you did. Of course you always know everything, don't you, about this sort of thing. James Hetfield's singing on this track was inspired by Chris Isaak's song "Wicked Game."
I did know that. I did well. I knew that. I found that out a couple of days ago.
Yeah.
I love the warmth of it.
Yeah, absolutely. At this point, he wanted to. He had done a lot of screaming, but now he wanted to go somewhere else in his singing style. In the past, he had always doubled his vocals. He didn't sing harmonies. He just sang the same thing on another track. But the process of doubling doesn't give you character. So this is actually got some harmonies in it. And
he also told James, Bob told James that he wanted to record his vocal, but instead of listening to himself on headphones, the way he did, he wanted him to listen to himself on speakers, which changed the way he was singing. And we get this beautiful, The Unforgiven. Oh my goodness.
I was expecting, when I played this through the first time, I was expecting this to be a link to the film Unforgiven, because it's got that very Western feel to it.
It's rumoured to have a sample from The Showdown by Clint Eastwood in it, from A Few Dollars More.
Yeah.
I'm with you there, Mike. It's actually doing that now. Bon Jovi couldn't lace their boots. So I want to just zhoosh forward a little bit because I've got a particular love for the guitar solos on this track, and I love the way they build this up. I'll just play it from about here. I think this is a work of genius, personally. Might not be the most technical guitar playing in the world, but I love this. Here we go. A little bit back. Here we go. There's an effect that he uses on the electric guitar that actually makes my teeth jangle. I feel it in my jaw. Good night. Thank you. I'm done. I'm done. Yeah. Thank you very much. I mean, that's just a lovely sounding bit of music.
It is. Apparently, they wanted to try a song with a heavy verse and a soft chorus, which is something which is not often seen in rock music or metal.
Yeah, absolutely. A heavy verse and a soft chorus. So that is the beautiful and perhaps spaghetti western-ish sounding influenced The Unforgiven.
Jovi-ish influenced.
Well, sorry, I never heard exactly what you said there. It just sort of blocked out and then I heard influenced. The next track picks right up where Sad But True left off. Almost 7 minutes of onerous headbanging chords it's Wherever I May Roam.
Instrument used at the beginning is?
I'm not sure.
It's the electric sitar.
Oh, right. Yeah, it makes sense. Makes sense. So it wasn't just a guitar effect. It was actually an electric sitar.
And he used this. Again, he played this with Kirk Hammett. Used this again. He played this with the San Francisco Symphony Orchestra in 1999. And it can be heard on their album, S&M.
Ah, I see. Very good. Very good. Bob said, these guys in Metallica, I realised, can pop out riffs all day. Half of them will be incredible. When you hang out with them, you'll start to hear the difference between one of their great riffs and a kind of smoke in the water type riff. Metallica had several of them on this album, and I'd say this one is pretty high up there. So we started out with a great riff, and then it became his job, Bob, to help them work that through the song and work out the mechanics. So they weren't just going in and just throwing down some stuff. Bob says he wishes he could take credit for the sitar, but it was the band's idea, and he said, and I thought it worked beautifully. Oh, it's coming.
And she keeps me satisfied. Gives me all I need. And with dust in throat I crave. Only knowledge will I save. To the game you stay a slave.
Hold on to your furniture.
Rover, wanderer, nomad, vagabond, call me what you will. Yeah. Oh, but I'll take my time anywhere. Free to speak my mind anywhere. And I'll redefine anywhere, anywhere I roam. Where I lay my head is home there.
We're going to be a wee bit later tonight because I had a bit of a technical issue. I'd like to blame it on equipment, but it was my stupidness.
No, easily done. Easily done, my friend.
So this is the favourite of mine, wherever I may roam. I don't know, it's deep, dark, and the way that they mess with tempo in this just gets my heart rate going. It really does. My watch again thinks I'm having a stroke.
I ask no one, and my ties are severed clean. Less I have, the more I gain. Off the beaten path I reign. Rover, wanderer, nomad, vagabond, call me what you will. Yeah, you will. But I'll take my time.
Just let me point out, and this is no way of dampening the mood here. It is 4:45, and we have 7 tracks to go.
Yeah, but we can fire on through.
We can until
Fire on through. The next track, "Don't Tread on Me," was you'll probably recognise a particularly famous piece of music from musicals.
Indeed, and do you know, I didn't until I read it, and then I went, oh,
Ah,
of course. Yeah.
This is the song I used to play before rugby. "Don't Tread on Me," and we used to play it as a little a little thing. So this is "Don't Tread on Me." We'll do shorter versions. I've been getting carried away. We'll do shorter versions.
No. Let it play.
Liberty or doubt, what we so proudly hail. Once you provoke her, rattling of a tail. Never begins it, never once engaged, never surrenders, showing the flames of rage. Say don't try me. So be it. Fret no more. To secure pieces. To prepare for war. So be it. Settle the score. Touch me again with the words that you will hear evermore.
Bob Rock said, "I'd worked with Bon Jovi, I'd worked with Motley Crue and Loverboy, and the real deal in terms of."
Good band they are.
Yeah, he said, but I realised this was the real deal in terms of songwriting. Metallica went to a depth of depth and passion, depth and passion that I'd never encountered.
So the title for this, do you know where that comes from?
No, I don't.
It was popular in Don't Tread on Me was very popular in colonial America, and it was part of the.
I do know this.
Yeah,
there's a movement, right?
And this was the title of the first ever published political cartoon in 1754.
Yeah, and there's a little logo that goes with it, isn't there? And "Don't
Yeah.
Tread on Me" is written there, and he kind of nicked the idea. This one gets me going. Again, as we find on this little show, it's difficult to do the big stuff in an hour, but we're going to crack on.
Maybe we should do a special like a double album.
A double. So the next track is "Through the Never." Bob said, "It took me a while to realise what was good in Through the Never, but once I did, I realised it was quite good. And what's good is there's a bit of fiery punk rock vibe to it as well, a new shade, a new colour." He said, and I found that quite exciting.
So on the episode of the Colbert Report, we did. There was a joke,
right?
What is Through the Never? Beyond the Sideways. He was basically just making fun of things when he had this title. It was like, what the hell does that even mean? For me, the song, though, Through the Never, was about exploring a man's mind and how limited we are. In a way, this movie maybe breaks through some boundaries.
Wow, this is Through the Never.
Eric?
Yeah?
Just pause it for a second.
Yeah.
I think what we need is
this totally wails.
All that is, was, and will be. Universe, much too big to say. Time and space, never ending. Disturbing thoughts, questions pending. Limitation of human understanding. Too quick to criticize. Obligation to survive. We hunger to be alive. Yeah.
No.
All it is, ever was, will be, ever, twisting, turning through the never.
Oh my goodness, I can't believe we're playing that on this show. My goodness, absolutely brilliant. That is Through the Never. The next track's really famous. Bob said, "I can't speak for what James wrote, but to me the song was all about him trying to write a love song without saying the word love. Interestingly, the man that I knew back then, he could certainly feel love, but he could never say it in those days. Musically, they wanted it to be big but not bombastic. They wanted the right size and weight. We didn't want to do an 80s cheesy power ballad. We really worked out the arrangements to make them huge and dramatic but real. So this is a particularly famous track.
So this is 3/4, a waltz time signature, more commonly associated with classical pieces like the Blue Danube, but select rockers have had success with this as well. Metallica on this track, also Manic Depression by Jimi Hendrix is another example. Metallica, on that Metallica Blacklist, this one was, they released Miley Cyrus's interpretation of this.
That's right.
She previously had also covered Nothing Else Matters. Sorry, this is in her 2019 set at Glastonbury.
Yeah.
Her rendition also features Elton John, that somebody had mentioned earlier. I know you're a big Elton John fan.
Oh, God. All about Elton.
And he was asked to play piano on this track. Originally, the track started with guitar, but Watt decided that he should begin and end with piano, so he asked Elton to play it. Elton made his contribution in London via Zoom.
Wow.
There we go.
Amazing. This is Nothing Else Matters. Love some harmonics, don't you?
Mm.
You could knock this out in a weekend, couldn't you?
Do you want me to do a cover of this then?
I'd love it.
Okay.
I'd love it in your own style.
So close, no matter how far. Couldn't be much more from the heart. Forever trusting who we are.
I don't think so. I've decided I'm not going to ever try and work out what's the best on this album because I think it's in that untouchable category. It is what it is.
Myself this way. Life is ours, we live it our way. All these words I don't just say, and nothing else matters. Trust I seek, and I find in you.
Just going to zhuzh it on a little bit.
Trusting who we are, and nothing else matters. Never cared for what they do. Never cared for what they know. But I
Oh, I can't believe we're not playing the solos. All of the solos, all of the time. But
They recorded an orchestral version of this
did?
for the 2021 Disney movie Jungle Cruise.
Very good, very good. That covers album where they get lots and lots of people to cover lots and lots of the tracks is really good fun to listen to.
I will have a listen to that, yeah.
Yeah, it's really good. It's really good. Mike's covering this. Brilliant. So that is the beautiful Nothing Else Matters. Track number 9, and it's a 12-track album? Yeah, 12-track album of Wolf and Man. Sounds like Metallica trying to emulate Megadeth, if you can at all appreciate that. Bob said, at first, to be honest, I thought it was silly to write about a wolf. I was like, oh yeah, great song about a wolf. What you getting at? Might as well write a song about the pyramids or something. When metal goes in these kind of areas, I lose the plot. But as we got more into James' lyrics, I realised it wasn't silly. There was an earthiness to it. We talked about making the song go through a transformation, kind of reflecting its lyrics.
In 2009, a study published in the Journal of Biology Letters. Are you familiar with this, what I'm about to say?
No.
Scientists played music for tamarin monkeys. The apes' behavior didn't noticeably change when they were listening to Samuel Barr, Nine Inch Nails, or Tool. But when they heard of Wolf and Man, they grew noticeably calmer.
Oh, really?
Apparently so.
Wow.
It must be true as a scientific study.
Let's hear it. That's because the monkeys were frightened. Yes, back to the meaning of life. Indeed.
You enjoyed that, did you?
Yes, I do. Yeah, I do. I enjoy that very, very much. Track number 11 is My Friend of Misery. It's back to this for a lot of the...
You've missed one.
We've missed one. Oh, sorry. The God That Failed. The song about his allegedly his Christian Scientist mother, who was struggling with dying from cancer and rejected all forms of modern medical help in hope that her faith was going to cure her. And basically, the God that failed her. It was written about that.
Quite a powerful, emotive topic for writing a song, I think.
Very complex in manner. This is The God That Failed. Oh, yeah. It's nasty.
Pride you took, pride you feel, pride that you feel when you kneel. Not the word, not the love, not what you thought from above. It feeds, it grows, it clouds all that you will know. Deceit.
So am I now.
Yes. Bob said, working on Kirk with this song was interesting, as it was for the whole album. I was told that Kirk will come in for the last few weeks of making the record and just add his guitar solos. And Bob said, well, I'm going to stop that right now. We'll all be here together all the time. At first, Kirk was very uncomfortable with this because he just came in, did his solos and then left. But he was game and he said, I'm up for it.
And left with his holdall full of cash.
Holdall full of multi-millions. He played through what he thought at first were kind of guide solos, but in many cases, including this one, his first ideas were the ones that we'd go back to and use with overdubs, and he learned how to be more spontaneous, so it improved him as a musician.
Trust you gave, I tried to say, left you cold and him in gray. It feeds, it grows, it climbs all that you will know. Deceit, decide just what you believe. I see faith in your eyes. Never you hear the discouraging lies. I hear faith in your cries. Broken is the promise, betrayal. The healing hand held back by the deep nail. Follow the God that failed.
Oofed. Eddie Van Halen influence in there, perhaps.
I was about to say, a bit of Eddie Van Halen going on in there.
Perhaps.
Bit of Eddie Van Halen, but without the talent. But let's put that aside for the moment.
Track number 11, My Friend of Misery, is back to their kind of like new slower sound that some people were kind of wrestling with, but has become a sort of definitive thing about them.
So this song came from a riff from the bassist, Jason Houston,
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Who brought it along, and it started with that, and then they built a song around that. And he got a writing credit on this, which is unusual because there's only three
Absolutely.
songs that he's got a writing credit on.
Very much. This is
really from that perspective.
Yeah, totally. I know. It's my song. I'm playing the bass at the start. See you, Barry. It's my fault. We're a wee bit late. So this song is all about a mood. He said, Bob said, Metallica know how to play to their strengths, dishing out raw power. But in this song, we went for more of atmosphere. It's ominous and it works.
It does. It's a very big sound, this song, isn't it? It's very sort of stadium rock kind of.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
I suspect, Mike, you've got way more than 1% already. Don't worry, mate.
I would like 1% of their net worth. 1% of their guitar collection. Warehouses across America full of guitars. Amazing.
Really?
Warehouses, yeah, all documented and what they were on and live shows and stuff.
Nice.
One thing that gets me about bands when they get so big, I mean, when you get to Metallica, which is like Uber, right? Uber. There's a thing that just annoys me a little bit about bands when they get huge. Now, when I watched recordings of them performing on the sort of Master of Puppets time, they had their own effects in front of them, right? They had their own effects in front of them. I've noticed this with a lot of bands when they get so big, they have no effects in front of them because their effects are being handled by someone else. And it just happens. Naturally, it all just happens. It all just happens because there's a guitar effects booth and it's all programmed and written. And that was one of the things that I thought, how on earth are they going to do this with all these, like, because they, in their live show in Glasgow, they had like an octagon stage. They were right in the centre of the hydro and the crowd was around them and they just moved around all the mics.
Nothing like as many as mine. No.
Nothing like. So, and Hetfield never tapped an effect, but had lots of different sounds coming out of his guitar. Hammett was the same.
Does that bother you? Isn't that just like a mixing desk?
Yeah, I suppose, but I kind of like to see the guy. Like Jack White will always stamp on his own effects. He's always going to do it himself. He's gonna... What's that? Yeah. Yeah.
The best example of somebody using a loop pedal and effects.
Yeah, doing it themselves. That's my dream. Someone twiddling my knobs, says Jim. We reached I know, that's the modern way. It's the modern way, absolutely. But it was a great show. In that show, Lars Ulrich stopped James from going on to the next track, and he said, he ran down to this little boy, and he said, "What age are you, son?" And he said, "I'm 10. And he said, "Who brought you here?" He said, "This is my father." And he said, "You're a very cool father, bringing your son to a Metallica concert." And he ran back up and gave him drumsticks and towels and all sorts of stuff. And Hetfield's getting the Glasgow crowd to shout the boy's name. I mean, that boy's never going to not love this band.
No, absolutely.
Lars Ulrich came and gave me sticks and towels.
The thing is, it would be the same with you. Even at your age, you'd just all of a sudden your bedroom wall would be covered with. Sarah would say to you, "What?"
Absolutely, I would wet my pants if I'm being honest. This is the last track, "The Struggle Within."
So this is a really interesting story around this, isn't there?
Yeah, go for it.
He wrote this, "The Struggle Within," to reflect the fact that this was written and sung on the last day of recording, and because of that, he was struggling himself. Hetfield was struggling himself. He'd run out of steam in terms of actually being creative, and it was documenting his struggle producing this song itself, which I think there's a beautiful cyclical nature to that, isn't there?
Absolutely. This is "The Struggle Within." Boocha. trying to fade it out there so I could have a chat about it. Bob said, the more and more I plunged into the world of Metallica, the more I came to understand that they were dealing with tough, scary, and not so pretty topics, and they were driven to explore them. He said that because he worked with them after this, right up to I can't remember what was the album where Jason left after it, saying we're kind of losing our way, we're becoming sort of like products of our environment, and he left. But he said the band I got after this record was never the same. I guess that's to be expected. They grew up, they became men, fathers and husbands. Being in Metallica was still vitally important to them, but when we did the Black Album, it was the only thing to them. I got them just at the right time. The Black Album represents a natural musical progression for the band, and from Justice for All providing the sort of foreground for this heavier sound that they came out with, and it propelled them on to be global megastars. So this has been great doing this. This is Metallica. This is a great song to compliment. Yeah, it is. Saint Anger, that's the one. Go. Usually when we do albums, they're 38, 42, 45 tops. This is you get an hour's worth of music, 62 minutes, 31 seconds of total music.
You get your money's worth here, don't you?
You get your money's worth. This has been.
So I was going to say. So who was it that said that they wanted to buy a copy on vinyl? Ian, was it?
No, I think it was Stuart Bailey.
Yes. So quit your moaning. You get an hour's worth. It's worth the money. Treat yourself.
Yeah, it's worth the money, and it'll only increase in value. So, sorry we're a wee bit late to this. I had some technical difficulties, but this was my offering, which was an album that means a hell of a lot to me. When it came out, I think I probably went through a dozen sets of speakers in my Capri that I had at the time. And or was it a Capri or a Golf? Can't remember. But I just kept popping them and having to replace them. Remember the days when you used to go to Halfords and replace your speakers?
I do.
Yeah,
I do. Well, in fact, I didn't go to Halfords because I worked in the hi-fi industry. I ordered them from the importer.
Yes.
But yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. This has been a great pleasure. We kind of rushed it, but you have to take the time.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. What a brilliant, brilliant album.
Awesome. I'm glad you enjoyed it, and I'm glad everybody else jumped in and stuck with us and listened to it. Where are you taking us next week, Adam Gray?
Well, I had thought I wanted to do something electronic, and I thought maybe Violator by Depeche Mode. And then I thought, actually, you mentioned them on the Burrito this morning when you did an impression of, what's his name, the radio presenter that's just left.
Ken Bruce on Radio 2.
Ken Bruce, yeah. And you said Scritti Politti, and I thought, Provision, great album.
Green Garside.
Yeah, and then that made me think, actually, maybe the Sneaker Pimps Becoming X, all of which I want to do.
Right.
However, and it's interesting that somebody a moment ago said Jeff Beck, Eric Rosen said, would it be Jeff Beck next week? And it could have been, except for the fact that obviously yesterday, David Crosby died.
David Crosby, Stills and Nash, the Byrds, all of that.
Yeah. And to be honest with you, I mean, I know the Byrds really well. I don't really know any of his stuff. But I've read so many beautiful, beautiful tributes to him about what a lovely guy he was that I thought maybe we should do a David Crosby album.
Right.
So I went onto Apple Music, and there was only one that it said Essential Albums. And that was If Only I Could Remember My Name from 1971. So I propose that we do that album as a tribute to him. I've no idea what it's going to be like. And I assume you've got no idea what it's going to be like.
Not a clue, but I know his work. So, and I was a bit of a Byrds fan. I used to, 8 Miles High and To Everything Turn. Yeah, all that. I remember all that. I loved all of that kind of stuff. But I would love to do that. I'd love the fact that we both know nothing about this.
Yeah, and it'll be really interesting. And he's one of those guys. He was alive, completely passed me by. So his body of work, his own work, Crosby, Stills and Nash, obviously, everyone knows, and the Birds, everybody knows. His own work, not listened to anything as far as I know. So it'll be really interesting to see where this takes us.
Let's do it.
Cool.
Until next week, folks, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thank you all very much indeed. And
we will
thank you for
rock
bringing
out.
that, Rick.
Yeah, my pleasure. See you guys.
See ya.